So once again, the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series is raising up a debate, whether it be on safety, whether it be on driver etiquette, whether it be on just plain out maturity, whatever it might be. People are talking about the truck race again. And of course, we're talking about Connor Jones and Matt Mills and their run-in at Homestead Miami Speedway that quite frankly was just over the line in my opinion. Now, there's a lot to kind of look at with this, and I want to go through each piece by piece. But first off, I do want to look at exactly what happened. Connor Jones and Matt Mills had been having issues from the sounds of it for a good part of the race, and maybe even longer than that. Jones was angry at Mills for something that happened earlier in the race. When they went into turns 3 and 4, it was Connor Jones who dove in about 3 or 4 truck lengths extra in order to hit Matt Mills. The 42 truck then veered to the right as he tried to correct it, slammed into the outside wall, caught fire both outside and inside the truck if you look at the replay. Luckily, Mills was able to steer it down to the bottom of the racetrack where he, after a little bit of time, was able to get out under his own power. But since then, we have also now learned that Matt Mills has been hospitalized. And that's the result of it. Matt Mills gets hospitalized while Connor Jones gets a 2-lap penalty. And a lot of people are looking at this and seeing the vastly different outcome for each driver. Now, who's to blame for what happened before that? We don't really know because there wasn't much camera footage of it. But Connor Jones does have a bit of a reputation to him, at least for a lot of drivers in the middle of the pack. And Matt Mills had an update that I'll read for you here. NBC Motorsports updated that, quote, Matt Mills will remain at a local hospital for continued observation overnight. Mills, driver of the number 42 for NBC Motorsports, was transported for observation after an incident in Saturday afternoon's NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series race at the Homestead Miami Speedway. Matt and the team are grateful for the outpouring of support. Further updates will be provided as they become available. And there's nothing really that you can add to that, per se. I mean, the only thing you can say is, well, what we're all thinking. We hope that Matt is okay. He recovers quickly if there is a recovery process in this. The real thing that everyone's talking about, of course, is Connor Jones. And the fact that Jones, for this, was penalized 2 laps by NASCAR, but allowed to continue to race. And it kind of flies in the face of a few different times, I guess people can say, of where drivers will do something or crash somebody and it turns into a penalty. Though a lot of what NASCAR has talked about being more of a penalty than just 2 laps, but maybe being taken out of the race or parked, is something like Matt Kenseth, where diving into the corner and slamming somebody in the outside wall. Something like a right rear hooking, like Chase Elliott did to Denny Hamlin or Bubba Wallace did to Kyle Larson. Those, I think, are definitely some very, very egregious moments that, no question. And I think what maybe NASCAR was going with here, or at least what they might use as their excuse for not taking him out of the race, was that it was not necessarily clear and obvious of a right rear hook or just slamming them and themselves into a wall. Personally, I think that Connor Jones should have probably been parked for the race. He's a really young driver who has a reputation of really losing his head at times, and I think that NASCAR stepping in and being the adults is the right course of action, especially the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, where you have drivers like Jones who are 18-year-olds who are just basically kids still at this point, at least maturity-wise and emotionally, and need to be sat down at times and shown, no, you cannot do this. I think that's something that is desperately needed at this point in NASCAR, and it's not just because of this one deal, and it's not because I want to single out Connor Jones. I know a lot of people are going to do that to Connor Jones, and granted, it's probably deserved in this instance, but it's because we see this growing and growing and growing over the years. We see guys in the truck series crashing each other or spinning themselves out for a caution. We see this graduating up the ranks, especially to the Cup Series now. And we saw it last year with the truck finale, which was arguably one of the worst NASCAR races I think any of us have ever seen. And you have to course correct at some point, or what happened to Matt Mills will become something that happens much more often. Now, A lot of people gave Connor Jones some crap because he didn't want to talk to the media after the race and saying that he was callous for what happened to Mills. And don't get me wrong, I think he was definitely a bit overboard in not answering any questions. You need to take accountability for your actions. But after the race, I really don't think at that point Connor Jones knew that Matt Mills had been hospitalized, and I want to give him at least the benefit of the doubt of that. Now, Connor did put out an apology, and that's also getting some flack at this point. Connor said this: "I have not yet had the chance to personally apologize to Matt for the incident that took place during today's race at the Homestead Miami Speedway, but I intend to do so. Matt and I have encountered several on-track incidents this season, and I let my frustration get the best of me. I underestimated the impact my actions would have on Matt, and I deeply regret the consequences that followed. I would like to extend my sincerest apologies to Matt, Nice Motorsports, NASCAR, and my entire ThorSport racing team for the unsportsmanlike behavior. My thoughts are with Matt during this time after hearing that he had been taken to the hospital for further evaluation following the contact on the racetrack." Connor Jones. Now, I'm not going to say whether or not this was genuine or not, or whether or not this was this or that. A lot of people were trying to go out there and say that this was AI generated based on different tools, but I don't really trust any of that stuff necessarily unless it's been actually proven in any way, and I don't want to accuse him or ThorSport of doing that. I will say keeping the comments off I think was the wrong move. Listen, I've been on YouTube a while. I've been in my fair share of different controversies, self-inflicted sometimes. And the worst thing you can do is to try and silence people, is to try and turn off your comments on Twitter and just try and pretend it doesn't exist. Because the quote tweet option is there. They're going to say stuff either way. And no matter what happens, people are going to say it. You might as well just face up to it. And whether that was Connor or ThorSport that made that executive decision there, I don't know. But this to me is kind of just a stock apology. I would assume he'd make that apology, and I think that it would be in really poor class had he not addressed it in any way. I don't care how mad you are at it. Being a person to another person, like wishing somebody as well if they're injured, that comes above racing, in my opinion. I do think that Connor Jones needs a huge reality check with a lot of this stuff. I think the maturity issues have been well documented, whether it be his radio incident. He was screaming multiple times on the radio, even shown on television by Fox Sports, and good on them for showing that. He has had problems with his team before, looking back at North Wilkesboro, and being as young as he is, I'm not expecting him to be as well-rounded as, say, a Kyle Larson or a Chase Elliott or even a Kyle Busch at this point. I'm not expecting him to be media trained the way a lot of drivers are, but I am at least expecting him to learn at some point. A lot of people, I think, compared him to Carson Hocevar. Hocevar's had a lot of incidents in the last year, 2 years or so, especially in the Truck Series last year and the year before. But the difference is Carson Hocevar at least backed it up with results out there. And I think that's something that Connor Jones is going to have to do. If he's going to be really aggressive and let his emotions take the best of him, well, at least be a driver that's running up front. And a lot of people, I think, were also kind of comparing him to Kurt Busch with those two, which is kind of an apt comparison, I might say. But I just hope that there is some kind of learning with this. We've seen too many instances in the last couple of years, in particular, of these young drivers doing dumb things, whether it be the championship race last year for the Truck Series, whether it be some of the things we've seen now in the Cup Series. American Motorsports, I think, has taken a hit because of what NASCAR is allowed to happen. I think both NASCAR and those involved need to take some kind of accountability here for their actions. I'm not saying they have to suspend him indefinitely, but I do think sitting him out the next race, especially since he basically admitted it was intentional, and literally Fox Sports put Connor Jones intentionally crashes Matt Mills, I think that he should be sat out a race, maybe the rest of the year. I don't think it should be indefinite by any means. I don't think that he should have his career ended by something stupid, but I do think that there needs to be some real life consequences to these actions outside of just an apology on Twitter. That's my take on it, though. again, I hope Connor learns from this, and I hope Matt Mills is okay and recovers quickly if there's a recovery needed. I'm not going to speculate on anything of his injuries. So thank you guys for coming in. I appreciate it a lot, and I'll see you after the Cup race tomorrow for the post-race stream. Later, y'all.